guys, my name is Nick Broughton and I am a Random Fish, and if you want to, hit the subscribe button and let's all be Random Fishes together, shall we? Kevin James. This is a man who felt like he had a massive career ahead of him. And then he tended to spend his money, his time and his talent with Adam Sandler, which led to various movies where I'm fairly sure the biggest joke was him walking on the screen and people pointing and going, "He's fat!" And I'm not going to pretend like King and Queens was something I watched with rapt attention, but I did find myself laughing occasionally at some of the jokes, and then I realised more and more out of time that that was because I was watching and laughing at Patton Oswalt, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Then his attempt at movies happened, and when he returned to the show Kevin Can Wait, I actually was kind of pleased because it meant he was returning to his roots. Like I said, while King of Queens wasn't my favourite, it had its fans, and it clearly had some kind of lasting power because it ran for a long time. But then, the show didn't seem to be doing anything particularly funny. Which sadly now leads us to his third and latest attempt at returning to pop culture relevancy, The Crew. Released this year in 2021, The Crew is about a dude called Kevin. Yes, he can't seem to write a show or be a producer of a show or be in a show where the main character is not at least given his first name again. I mean, seriously? Okay. But he has a team of people who work in a NASCAR garage. I'll be honest, I saw this and my British mind suddenly went, oh God, because again, I had to learn about another American-based thing that quite frankly doesn't need to be learnt about. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But racing does have its fan bases, and so I understood for whom this show was designed. I wanted to watch it because it seemed like a good idea at the time. I thought, this looks like a nice idea, it looks kind of fun, what the hell? The show kicks off with the team being in a berserkly bad place because their racer called Jake finishes last in a race and apparently has been doing so for a while, and they've not really won a race properly for a long time. The owner of the garage, the type of character that, you know, you would be sure was created to be the living embodiment of the word yeehaw, is all set to retire and leave. He leaves the garage in the capable hands, apparently, of his daughter, Catherine. So, I honestly think right now, from that setup, I kind of understand how the season's going to run. The idea being of the young person with ideas and everything else coming up against the older, crustier characters who already know what it is that they're doing, and they know what works and what doesn't work in their own minds. It's fairly predictable, but okay, fair enough. Let's see where it goes. At least let's make it entertaining. No, the show was greenlit by Netflix, but I couldn't really catch a whiff of Adam Sandler anywhere, so I was kind of okay with this. But why does it feel like his hands were all over it? Because it felt like some of the jokes were just lazy. There are guest stars that are from NASCAR, which, okay, again, pretty lazy, but there is a point for the show in that favour, in that they didn't just get random celebrities to pretend to be NASCAR drivers. They actually brought in NASCAR royalty for this to work. And while, again, I'm not American and I'm not a fan of NASCAR, I do understand that that's a good thing, and I am appreciative of that concept. Now, if I'm being 100% fair, the show has rather good moments between Kevin's character and the daughter character, Catherine, and the tension between them. But there's an episode where Kevin says that he's quitting, that he's going to find another garage to go to, and the tension feels so manufactured, is the word I'm going to go with, because of who Kevin James is. There isn't any tension that he might be fired. There's no tension that he might be fired, because you, the audience member, you know that he was more than likely to be an executive producer on the show, even if you didn't look that up. And I did, and he is. So even then, there's less chance of him actually being fired because of this concept. So his job is secure no matter what happens on the show. Unless, of course, the show gets cancelled. I have no idea if it has been or not. I will say, I love how the opening episodes were about the whole young buck having ideas and the older, crustier generation sort of going, that's not how we do things around here. You know, but to the point where Kevin actually brings up or brings back the physical personification of the word yeehaw to come back and take back control. And then they realise that what she was doing was actually for the benefit of the garage, so they convince him to let her come back. You know, it's very formulaic and it's very bizarre and it's very easy to predict, but you kind of see where it's coming from and you can still find a way to enjoy it. But what really throws me is the final episode. And it has nothing to do with a big race coming up. It has nothing to do with a massive clash between Kevin and Catherine. None of that stuff is happening. It's a will they won't they story between Kevin and the only other woman in the entire run of the show who was a permanent cast member and not just a random guest star or random character that just popped up. Like, you know, this character called Beth. Now, she and Kevin have a sort of workplace husband-wife relationship, which, of course, we've seen a lot of over the years. You know, various people who are in positions of power have someone of the opposite gender that they turn to for this sort of conversation and everything else. The best thing I can think of to describe that is the Steve Jobs film with Michael Fassbender, where Kate Winslet plays his work wife. And it worked because they fought and they argued, but it still worked because they were there as friends. But then this show proceeds to go, no, we don't want the friendship. We want there to be like a romantic entanglement. That's what we want. Really though? Is it really what you want? Because I don't think that's what you want. I honestly think that, you know, having Kevin there and having her as their friends, as just a friend, and have it be like a workplace, a fake work marriage kind of thing, it works well for this because of the setting that it's in and the way that it's done. I really would have appreciated the show if they'd given us a decent ending instead of this will they won't they crap. But of course, at the end of the season there's this whole you have to go get her, Kevin. And I'm sitting there going, no you don't, just stop doing this, stop trying to be too much like a sitcom, because when a show tries to be too much like a sitcom, it fails like a sitcom, which is even worse. But, you know, the finale just felt completely out of left field. But, you know, it could be worse. I mean, hell, there's an entire storyline in the season where Catherine gets rid of a sponsor and she brings back in another sponsor, but belonging to a company called Fake Steak. Now, if you know anything about old school America and new school America, there's this wonderful clash about the health thing. Because you have these people in the ages of like Catherine and all that sort of thing, who sit there and say things like, we have to eat healthy, the vegetables, the greens, and all this sort of thing. And then you have characters like the Kevin character and his lot, including a car manager called Chuck, who sit there and go, we like meat. We like good old-fashioned meat. We're American. I suddenly feel like I'm back in the ranch or something, with Sam Elliott stood there on the side just being like, I think you should cut back on drinking. Nope. You should cut back on red meat. Try again. What about stress? What do you do to release it? Eat steak and drink whiskey. What else do you want? But that's funny. That makes it funny because of the way that it's presented to us. The problem is that this show tries to do multiple things at once, and when it does well at something, it really does do well at it, and I will always admit that. But, like I said, the finale, straight out of left field. I didn't like the ending. I know that's right and not left, but I have a wardrobe here, so I can't do the out of left field thing. But It just felt wrong. For multiple reasons, but it just felt wrong. But, you know, on the bright side, I didn't hate it. Not like I'm watching Grown Ups or Grown Ups 2 again. Or, you know, not like I'm watching various other things. I mean, Hitch, for example, just, no, awful. He was okay in that film, but I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, it's just another excuse for another character to walk on the set and have people go, "He's fat! He's dorky! Don't like him. He's meant to be the loser. He's playing the loser. That's it. End of." And, you know, while I can appreciate the cinematic loser, at the same time, it felt a little overplayed, especially for him. But, do I still like it? Yeah. And I do recommend it. Because I am a random fish. And I will like the most random of things. With that being said, Random Fish out.